Welcome to the Kingdom Podcast, featuring Commissioner Christine King, where all voices are heard.
Welcome to the Kingdom Podcast, where all voices are heard. This episode, my honored guest is Judge Leifman, Miami-Dade County Court. He's been on the bench for 23 years now?
Almost 25.
Almost 25 years. He is my guest today, and we are going to talk about some of the amazing things that he is doing for our homeless population and mental health. Coming live this year is a facility like no other in the country, and I'm proud to say that Miami and what we are doing for our homeless population, we will achieve net zero.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Welcome, Your Honor. Thank you for being on my podcast.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you for all you're doing, and thank you for helping expose the community to the work that we're doing, because we're going to need a lot of community support, so I really appreciate it.
So tell us about the facility. What's the name of the facility?
It's the Miami Center for Mental Health and Recovery. It's the first of its kind in the country. It will be a one-stop shop for the most acutely ill with serious mental illnesses, and usually what we call co-occurring disorders, meaning both mental health and substance use disorders, who have not been able to get the kind of treatment they need to recover. You know, we just have a terrible system in the United States. It's not a Miami or Miami-Dade problem, it's a national crisis. And it goes back to when we set up a community mental health system in America. Most people with the highest acuity or the most serious illnesses were still in state hospitals. So we never developed a system of care for the people that were the most ill. And so when we shut down all the hospitals and we cut back on massive housing and we went to the war on drugs and the war on crime, this population got pushed out from the hospitals to the streets to the jails and back. And we never afforded them the kind of treatment that they needed to allow them to recover. And I guess what I've always found so galling is that we never provided them what they needed, and then we blame them.
Right. That's the worst.
It is the worst.
That is the worst part of it.
And not just blaming them, but they get hurt worse, because
Yes.
a lot of this population has some very serious trauma issues, and thinking that the criminal justice system can help them recover is a fallacy.
Right.
It really just makes many of them worse. And so the idea is to break that cycle and to really target the population that keeps hitting the deep end of the system again and again and again.
And I can tell you, because I had the pleasure of touring the facility, and this facility is absolutely going to break the cycle. Where we treat our homeless population, particularly ones that are suffering from mental health, like pariahs. And we would never do that to someone that's suffering from cancer or Parkinson's disease. But it's the same thing. They are suffering from a disease and they need help. But we are not as empathetic to this population of the community. And one of the things that struck me that you're going to be doing at this facility is when a patient comes in, you're going to wash their feet.
That's right.
Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Like you said, these are just illnesses like any other illness. And I think when people don't understand something, they fear it. And when they fear it, they don't treat it the way it should be treated. I mean, these are illnesses that affect a significant percentage of our population. It's just there's so much stigma surrounding mental illness, nobody wants to either admit it or talk about it. And so this population tends to just keep going through homelessness, criminal justice, and hospitalization again and again and again. And they're terribly mistreated. And what happens is they learn something called learned helplessness. And they learn that the system can't or won't help them, and they give up. And so by the time they usually end up in the criminal justice system, it's not that they don't want to take their medication. They don't care if they breathe anymore. They've just given up on life. And so one of the things that we learned about was a program in Boston, a homeless program in Boston. And when the patients come in for a checkup, the first thing they do is they have the doctors wash their feet. And while it has some biblical implication, I suppose, the real idea for us is to help develop some humility and trust and to break this learned helplessness and actually show this population we care about them. And we believe by doing that, it's going to help them to voluntarily take their own treatment because they're going to see a different side. And so we think it's the first positive step when they come into the facility to know that we want them to be there, we care about them, we recognize that these are just illnesses and they can recover. And what most people don't understand, the recovery rates for many of this population is better than for heart disease and diabetes. It's just we don't help people access it. This population is no more dangerous than the general population. In fact, on medication, people with mental illnesses are much less dangerous than the general population without mental illnesses. They're much, much, much more likely to be victims of violent crimes than perpetrators by a wide margin. And so there's nothing to fear. We just have to do what we're supposed to do and offer people treatment. Look, if we saw someone collapse anywhere on the street with a heart attack,
to them.
and we'd give them CPR, we'd call 911.
Right. Yes, we'd jump into action.
And then if they were unconscious, we would still get them to the hospital, and we'd get them treated, and we'd even give them surgery if that's what it took to save them. Mm-hmm. But God forbid they have a heart attack of the brain, and they're psychotic, and their brain's on fire, and it's a disease, as you said. We're afraid, and we step over them, and we ignore them.
We look in the other direction.
Absolutely.
Don't make eye contact.
That's right.
You don't make eye contact. I know the first step of washing the feet, but then there's so many other layers to this. First of all, it's huge. How big is it?
It's 181,000 square feet. It's 7 stories. It is enormous. It is the former competency restoration facility. It was called South Florida Evaluation and Treatment Center. It's where they took people with serious mental illnesses that needed to be have their competency restored so we could try them, which is a whole nother subject that's pretty useless and a waste of big money. But we're going to turn this facility into something useful, not useless. And it's going to save money. It's going to save taxpayers at least $14-15 million a year. We believe within 3 years it'll pay for itself. It'll improve our public safety, and it'll give this population an opportunity for real recovery. We're not just going to get you in, adjudicate your case, and kick you to the curb because you have a mental illness.
Right.
We're going to provide every essential element of recovery in one location, and that's why it's going to work. So it has a psychiatric aspect to it. So it has a crisis stabilization unit and what's called a short-term residential facility. So people can stay in a locked facility for an additional 90 days. And then as they begin to recover, they'll be able to take advantage of all the services in the building. But even before that, it also has a primary health clinic, a dental clinic, an eye clinic, a podiatry clinic. A lot of homeless people have terrible feet issues because of being homeless and because of diabetes. It also has a tattoo removal program, and so if you've put a tattoo on your face during some psychotic episode and it's hard to get a job, we'll remove it for you. It has a day activity program that'll be run by people with mental illnesses to help teach self-sufficiency, to actually help people manage their illness, just like we do for people with diabetes.
Right.
It has a culinary supportive employment program you saw. The kitchen is huge.
It feels like a resort.
Good, because that's what they deserve.
Right. It doesn't feel like a hospital. It doesn't feel like a jail. Whereas before it looked like it looked like prison.
Yeah.
It had barbed wire everywhere. It was ugly, and now there's landscaping. There's beautiful, calming colors. There's the fixtures are set. You have wood floors. You had like an interior decorator come in and put their touch on it. It doesn't feel like an institution. And that's one of the things that I loved about it.
And you're so observant and so correct, because if you don't feel welcome in a place you don't want to stay.
Right.
And, God forbid you had cancer or heart disease, you go to these hospitals and facilities, they're gorgeous. And they're offering you all these wonderful services and helping you want to feel better about yourself so you can get better. We do the absolute opposite for people with mental illnesses. We're spending almost $500,000 in the building just to smooth out most of the cinder block so it doesn't have that feel of an institution. Because we want people to know that this is how you should be treated. You deserve to be treated this way if you have one of these illnesses. And if you have a loved one with one of these illnesses, would you rather them be on the street or jail or a hospital, or would you rather be in a facility that's actually going to help them recover in a way that they can get their lives back again?
Right. And you have actually thought of every aspect of recovery. There's even a courtroom.
That's right.
There's even a courtroom in the facility. And when you would have to have a doctor come, and as an attorney, I know I could spend a whole day in court. We can't afford that. But here, the doctor can just step out, walk right into the courtroom, and then go back to what they were doing.
That's right.
And
that's one
that
of the
is
problems,
innovation.
And that's one of the problems with the system now. The doctors are coming from way south or way north, and they spend all day there. They don't get paid to be there. These are for the civil commitments hearings. And so they don't come. And so it's hard to even, adjudicate these cases. And so the courtroom will be to, if you have an open criminal case, we'll manage the criminal case. But it's also to be able to do civil involuntary commitment hearings under our Baker Act and what we call the Marchman Act for substance use. And it also has 208 beds of housing. So
that's huge. That is huge. That is huge. And that is going to allow us to get to net zero. Functional zero.
Functional zero. There you go.
It's functional zero.
Functional zero. People will still be coming in and out of the system, but we'll have somewhere for people to go. And that's what makes us so unique.
And you can go there without being arrested.
That's right.
If our officers who are CIT trained,
very good.
If our officers who are CIT trained recognize that this person is in crisis, they don't have to arrest them.
That's right.
But it's a voluntary. You can be voluntary or involuntary.
That's right.
But to have the choice, to be able to decide for yourself, or for an officer to not have to be forced to make an arrest.
That's right.
For someone to get help. I think that is huge.
So CIT stands for Crisis Intervention Team Policing. It's a 40-hour training program that we've been doing for 23 years. In fact, the city of Miami was one of the first departments to do it.
We are so awesome.
You are awesome. But I have to say, we have all 36 departments now trained, and they're all awesome. And they're all doing an amazing job. But the city has done a particularly great job with this. And they've created a program called the HEAT team, not the basketball team, but it's the police HEAT team that are focused on the higher risk homeless population. And so they will be able to directly take this population because we all have some amount of learned helplessness because the system is so broken that the police, the judges, the doctors, in many ways we've all given up. And so we just keep cycling people again and again. I think I may have mentioned when you came on the tour the other day, we had this study done by the University of South Florida, and we sent them the names of 3,300 people who had been arrested, identified as having a serious mental illness over a 5-year period. And they have the ability to tell a community who the highest utilizers of criminal justice and mental health services are. And so they have access to all the arrests, the Baker Acts, Medicaid, Medicare. And they can tell you this fine number. And so we thought, hey, they maybe would narrow it down to 1,000 people, but that's still a population we could get our arms around. They narrowed it down to 97 people, primarily men, primarily with some kind of psychotic disorder such as schizophrenia or schizoaffective, primarily co-occurring mental health and substance use, and almost all homeless. And over a 5-year period, these 97 people were arrested 2,200 times. They spent 27,000 days in the Dade County Jail, 13,000 days at a state-funded psychiatric facility, cost taxpayers millions and millions of dollars, and we got nothing
Got
for
nothing.
it. Nothing. There's your
Nothing.
learned helplessness.
Right.
And so this is
No
gonna,
help for them.
None.
Just shuffling through.
That's right.
Just shuffling through the system.
Nobody cares.
And can you imagine?
No.
If you're in that situation, you're the person that needs. You're the patient because they're patients. You're the person that needs help, and you're not getting any help.
And I don't know why people aren't angrier.
Right.
I mean, we tend to accept things over long periods of time, but it always wasn't this way.
No.
And-
And like you said, we talked earlier. We turn the other way.
Right.
We look in the other direction.
Yep.
We don't want to. We don't want to see it.
Well, it's sometimes scary. Sometimes it's just we don't think anything can be done. There's such misunderstanding. But I find that when we educate people about these illnesses, or if they have family members with these illnesses, they're so desperate for help.
Right.
And we're going to offer it, and it's going to be a real game changer. And look, I have to thank a lot of people. The city of Miami really stepped up and has allocated significant resources for us to open this. Mayor Suarez, you and the commission have been unbelievably supportive. The county, Mayor Daniela Levin-Cava, and the county commissioners have also been tremendously supportive. They have put up a lot of money for this. Jackson Memorial put up $8 million as well towards the construction, and they deserve to be thanked for this.
Amazing. I'm so happy to hear that we're all getting it.
Yep.
We get it.
And that's what it takes, is this kind of collaboration.
Yes.
Keep the politics out of it. And maybe that's the nice thing of having the judiciary involved, because we're Switzerland and we can stay out of all that stuff, and people maybe are afraid to get involved in that stuff, and they
Yes.
should be.
Yes.
And so, everyone's doing the right thing for the right reason right now, and we're going to see the outcomes, and it's going to be stunning. I mean,
It is.
people are already lined up to tour the facility from
You know,
around the country.
When I saw the garden,
That's beautiful.
when I saw the garden, that's when you brought me to tears.
Yeah.
Because I thought, again, it feels like a resort, not an institution. And I can come out here with my family. If I have someone in, we can come out and sit. We can just sit in the grass.
That's right.
And enjoy the sun and watch folks playing basketball or families just talking. You can have lunch out there. You can just sit out there and enjoy our wonderful Miami weather. And Miami Heat. Go Heat!
Go Heat.
Go Heat!
They've been incredibly supportive of this project. They recognized and honored the building, and one of the folks that have been behind a lot of the work to get it done just this week. Udonis Haslam has been incredibly helpful and
He
supportive.
is such a good community
He is a
steward.
heart of gold, and he's just a kind and thoughtful, smart human being. And we're just blessed to be able to have someone like him working with us. So
You're going to have that amazing indoor basketball
we've got
gym.
this beautiful gym that the Miami Heat team, the basketball team, is helping us with, and the barbershop.
And the barber. And you're going to get a salon as well.
And a salon as well.
You're gonna get a
I got to
salon.
stop calling it barbershop. I have to change the name. They put barbershop on there, and that's stuck in my brain. But yes,
Yes.
it'll be salon. Absolutely, because we'll have men and women in there, and we want to make sure we take care
And
of
it
everybody.
is such a full circle. This, I want to just continue to call it the resort. It's such a because we're going to be able to, with the partnership with Jackson, residents are going to be able to get on hands learning. How do you say residency?
Yeah, so, right. So one of the problems we have in this community, in all communities, is what we call workforce development. There aren't enough people to do the kind of jobs that we need to help this population. So we're going to offer fellowships and residencies in the facility. We're also affiliating with Columbia University in New York. They're helping us with some of the clinical aspects and the research. University of Miami is helping us also with the research. We're going to have a huge research component so that we can show that if you set up a system like this, we can get such better and different outcomes and save money and save lives. And we're going to do clinical research there as well to show that certain treatments and medications will give us better outcomes, and looking at all kinds of factors, age, race,
Right.
all, gender. We have
It's
never
a game
done.
changer. It is a game changer.
It's shocking to me that we haven't done that kind of research in the past. We know
true.
so little about
That's
this,
true.
and we should be. And it's because this population doesn't stay in one place long enough to be able to do the kind of research you need to get
This will
these outcomes.
allow the research to take us forward leaps and bounds.
1,000%.
Leaps and bounds
Yep.
because we'll be learning on the spot.
That's
it's
right.
on the job training. In addition to, this resort is going to create
I love that. This resort.
this resort is going to create so many jobs.
That's right.
It's going to create so many jobs.
And this population will go from using public services to paying for public services.
Yes.
Because not only, so we're also teaming up with Miami-Dade College and Workforce Florida, and they're helping sponsor the Culinary Supportive Employment plus GEDs, college degrees, and they've identified a few other work opportunities for this population so they could get paid well once they leave us. And so we'll help people get back to work, give them a reason to get up every morning, motivate them to want to stay in recovery, and they'll be paying taxes. And so
Right.
it's just, and we're going to capture all of it. It is transformational.
It's transformational.
Absolutely.
And then when you give someone back their life, Judge Leifman, when you give them back their life and they're able to rejoin society and feel good about themselves, and when that light bulb comes on for them that this illness is not a prison, I'm not in a prison in my mind, that's God's work.
It's just a tremendous way to describe it because they are in prison in their own mind. And they're so stuck. And it just leads to so many other issues. And it leads to a lot of primary health issues,
Yes.
which we never talk about.
Right.
I mean, most of this population has heart disease and cancer and diabetes. It's because a lot of them have been neglectful to their own bodies because of, they're living on the street. But also part of it is most of them smoke. 50% of smokers in the United States have a serious mental illness, and it's because the nicotine actually stimulates what we call dopamine in the brain, and it makes them feel better. And so they're self-medicating themselves but killing themselves. And it's part of the reason that most of this population dies 25 years younger than the rest of the population. Wow. And so by adding all these components in one place and getting them easy access with good doctors that want to do this kind of work and nurses and staff, I mean, we're going to help the whole person and really help them recover and, move on. And, right now, this building is the culmination of 23 years of work that we've been doing. And we set up what we call the 11th Judicial Circuit Criminal Mental Health Project in 2000. And it was set up to divert people with these illnesses into treatment, and we've been enormously successful. But 20 to 30% of the people that we haven't been able to help are the ones that this building is
Right.
being built for. But the program has helped reduce the number of arrests in Miami-Dade County from 118,000 a year to 53,000. Our jail audit went from about 7,400 to about 4,400. We closed one of our 3 main jails. So far, it has saved taxpayers over $120 million. And our police shootings have almost stopped. We take a lot for granted, and we see these horror shows that go on around the country, but
Right.
we're not having that, knock on wood, and
Right.
there's a reason for it. And one of the unexpected results of this program that we had not anticipated was the level of PTSD among law enforcement officers. And so the woman that runs my CIT program, Habsi Kaba, she gets about 250 calls a month from police officers for their own personal mental health issues. And so we realized we need to do something because they weren't going to the police departments
Right.
for treatment for all the obvious reasons. So we met with the Police Chiefs Association and we said, you guys have a really serious problem on your hand. Let us help you. And so what we do now is if the officer calls us, we refer them to treatment outside the department. And we don't report it unless they're homicidal or suicidal, and which very few are, and they're actually able to get treated. And so we recently looked at City of Miami police shootings. And it turned out that the 5 years before we did CIT, there were 90 police shootings. The 5 years after CIT, it went to 30. And then in the last 5 years, it's somewhere like 12 or 13.
Look at that.
I mean, it's really
it is. And we
significant.
We don't understand, like, just the quote normal folks. They don't understand that, regular sleepless nights, you are suffering from some kind of anxiety.
That's right.
There are so many. We have to educate our community about the effects of having the various levels. There's, it's not just schizophrenia.
Absolutely.
That's
the small percentage.
Right. It's you're having sleepless nights and you're up worried about stuff. That stuff you need to speak to somebody about that as well, so it doesn't morph into something more serious.
That's right.
And I'm going to do everything that I can to continue to champion mental illness and how we can manage it, because it's manageable now. You mentioned that we have medication. Instead of taking a pill every day, you can get a shot.
That's right.
That will last for 6 months to help you feel better.
That's right.
That's a game changer.
Very much so, particularly for the population that's so sick they don't recognize they're ill.
Because by the time 6 months comes around for the next vaccination shot, they may understand that I need this now.
It usually takes about 2 weeks that they start to gain their insight. It's really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the other thing about this building. It's going to attract the best treatments that are out there.
Right.
I mean, instead of this
particularly with the research too.
Absolutely. And instead of, this population usually gets the worst, they're going to get the
best. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about it. Now, there's a segment of my podcast that we call the Spitfire Round, where I ask you 5 questions and you just answer them very quickly.
Go.
The first question: what is the most dangerous thing you do?
Probably drive home. It's Miami. It's certainly not the job or working with this population.
Okay. What is your theme song?
Wow. That is a really good one. I have no idea. Can we come back to that one?
We can come back to that one.
I have a very eclectic taste in music. So
Me too.
It could be just about anything from hard rock to an opera.
Me too.
Or rap. So I don't really know what to tell you. It depends on my mood that day.
That's how it depends on what I'm doing, where I am at in my life. Like when I was in law school, I listened to one song every morning while I was exercising. And then once I got through law school, then it became another song. And so it depends on where I am in my life.
I've always been a Springsteen fan too, so that's always my fallback.
He has good music. Okay, so we'll come back to that.
All right.
What's your favorite book?
Wow. I read a lot. Favorite book? I have a few.
Give me one.
Bonfire of the Vanities
I'm going to write that down.
was an interesting book because Tom Wolfe, it really describes the bad side of human nature sometimes and how people try to take advantage of situations and misstate the facts. And so it was an eye-opener of a book, but it was brilliantly written.
Okay. Now, if you could have dinner with anyone, living or dead, who would that be?
Probably Gandhi.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
I'm a Gandhi fan, and I've been over to India a few times. And, just to be able to be such a amazing mover without lifting a sword.
Yes.
And did more good than, just tremendous.
I read his book as well. That's a good one. Now, if you could tell 20-year-old Steve, if you could give him some advice, what would it be?
Always do the right thing for the right reason. It'll always work out.
That's a good one. You have to be able to recognize the right thing, though.
It's usually obvious.
That is true.
We know.
That is true. It's the first
And we
thing.
know when it's not,
Yes.
too, by the way.
Yes, it is the first thing. So I want to thank you so much for being my guest and for educating my listeners on this new facility. I cannot wait for the ribbon cutting.
Well, you're going to be there, and I can't thank you enough, quite frankly, for helping not only educate the community, but for supporting such a worthwhile initiative, because we can't do it without folks like you. So thank you so much.
And this resort is getting worldwide attention, right? You're going to be on
A&E, I'm hopeful Nightline. They're all starting to line up. It's everyone. Look, all you have to do is pick up any. I would say paper, but no one reads the paper anymore but me. But
I read it sometimes.
you know, you look at a lot of the big cities, New York, L.A., they are frantic. I was in Portland on
Right.
Sunday. They're desperate to fix their homeless situation. It's not just homeless, it's homeless mental health and
It
substance
is.
use
You almost
population.
cannot separate.
No,
you can't separate.
No. And so they're failing because we've done it wrong, and this is going to be a great example on how to do it right.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me on the Kingdom Podcast, where all voices are heard. All voices are heard. I appreciate you so much. And that's a wrap, everyone.